Let me ask you a question. What is your worst fear?
Hello, and welcome back to the one and only Marvelous Videos. If you enjoy watching movies and series, there's a pretty high chance that you know about Cape Fear. And if you don't, let me just tell you, Cape Fear is something you do not want to touch unless you are 100% sure about it. The 1962 version is held as one of the classics of that time, and the 1991 remake with Robert De Niro actually made the entire thing even better, as it turned into a landmark of psychological thriller cinema. Now, after 2 successful movies, Apple TV has decided to turn it into a limited series with 10 episodes, which is created by Nick Antosca. And do you know who all are starring in this series? Amy Adams, Javier Bardem, and Patrick Wilson. And the best part about all this is that both Scorsese and Spielberg are executive producers for this show. The entire premise of the show is really updated, and it shows how weaponizing AI and using social media, along with psychological manipulation, is going to absolutely terrorize the Bowden family. And honestly, I'm all for it. Thankfully, the show has already screened the first 8 episodes, and a few critics have been lucky enough to be able to watch it. And they're going crazy with the reviews, so let's check out what all the ruckus is about.
Something's really wrong. Oh my god.
What is your worst fear?
Alright, so let's talk about the reviews. And hey look, I had to go through a lot of reviews for this video, but I have to start with one that genuinely made me go back to it twice. And that review is from The Guardian. If you're not aware, The Guardian is probably one of the most respected outlets in entertainment criticism. And somehow it dropped a review which was not only good, but literally glowing. The review actually describes the series as a dread-packed psychological drama, while highly praising Amy Adams' performance in what sounds like one of the best performances of her career. The Guardian also went on to describe Javier Bardem's Max Cady as threatening, seductive, ambiguous, and possibly still a victim. A victim? Dude, that's a complete 180-degree turn from any previous version of Cape Fear. And to add to that, the critics are also wrestling over the moral ambiguity, and that too this early. So you can just tell that this show is actually being really smart with the way it's telling the story. One more thing that this review highlighted was the fact that there was some sort of uneasy dynamic between Adams and Bardem as one of the show's main engines. And not gonna lie, I saw it coming a mile away. Like seriously, I could tell this was the case after watching just the trailer. Now that I've gotten that out of our way, let's talk a little bit about the villain, because trust me, I've been dying to have this conversation with y'all. So far, the role has been played by 2 legends, namely Robert Mitchum in 1962 and Robert De Niro in 1991. But now Javier Bardem has taken up the burden of outperforming his predecessors, because, let's be honest here, even acting out the part of this specific villain is like a mountain of legacy to climb. But critics are saying that unlike the 2 Roberts, he's not really trying to act just like them. Instead, he's kind of doing that character in a way that's more suited to him. Esquire actually reported that Bardem himself has said that this version of Max Cady is more like a man who's in pain, which is truly fascinating for me because this outlook on this character has never been explored before. So this new version of a character that's usually been pure, terrifyingly evil is a fresh breath of air. Breath of fresh air. When I first read about this entire reframe, I was kind of skeptical myself, you know. Like, major changes to a classic character are usually not well accepted by fans and critics alike. But hey, this reframing might actually be working in his favor because many critics have actually come together and agreed, saying that his performance was magnetic and unsettling in equal measure. The fact that this version of Cady is not a straight-up killer like the other 2 may actually give us a better outlook. And who knows, we may even sympathize with his character because the guts needed to not portray the character like Robert De Niro or Mitchum is honestly commendable. Like, this is the kind of creative decision that actually reignites the fire of watching remakes and hopefully movies and series in general. I genuinely cannot wait to see how audiences react to that when the episodes start dropping weekly. Now, can we just take a moment to talk about the one and only Amy Adams? Because when I tell you that every single review I've come across about her performance has made sure to single her out while complimenting her, trust me on it. Critics have quite literally mentioned how her performance was incredible, and brother, that is not a word critics throw around lightly, especially while reviewing a thriller series. One change that actually made her character stand out a bit more than before is the fact that unlike the previous versions of this character, Anna Bowden is not just a character waiting to be terrorized. Instead, she's now a former defense attorney who actually, believe it or not, filed a defense plea for Cady. And you know what this means? The guilt, the professional reputation, the moral weight of what she did. All of that will be sitting on her shoulders from the very first episode. In my opinion, this approach actually feels much richer as a starting point because the previous films never really gave their main leads any of these, and Adams being Adams definitely runs with it. Now let's talk about the tone of the series, because this is where things start to get even more interesting. As we've already established, this new series is not trying to be a full copy of Scorsese's pulpy, almost operatic 1991 version. Instead, as per the critics, the series is more of a slow-burn psychological thriller, which is actually quite accurate because showrunner Nick Antosca himself called the series an ambient dread. I did mention that this series has incorporated a few new things such as weaponized AI, emotional manipulation, and using social media to terrorize the Bowden family. And honestly, it's so scary because what do you mean that this series shows the villain use fake AI-generated pictures to blackmail the family? That's terrifying. Antosca was even quoted as saying, "It's so fundamentally terrifying to anybody who buys into the idea of the safe, healthy American family." And when this quote was said, I swear I felt a chill travel straight down my spine because this shows that the series actually understands exactly why the entire story of Cape Fear still works, even in 2026. It's one of the first times a show is trying not to depend too much on nostalgia, and instead using a classic premise to convey some dangerous and frightening things about family dynamics and the world that we currently live in right freaking now. Now that I've already started talking about family dynamics, I want to point out that the early reviews are also kind of pointing to the fact that the Bowden family in this newer, fresher version of the story is actually far more complicated when it comes to morality than in any previous version of the family. In the previous versions, Tom Bowden was actually a character who was shown as a helpless husband who was just waiting to be terrorized. But Patrick Wilson's version of Tom Bowden is actually a far more complex character, as he also shares equal responsibility for Katie's conviction. This means that instead of being an innocent bystander, this time the character actually has a reason to be attacked and is also aware of the reasons behind it. Wilson himself actually managed to put it perfectly in a preview interview, as he said, "You've got a family and trust and vengeance and tension and all those juicy words to lock into, so you don't need to have seen any iteration of this." This quote right here is actually perfect because now we also know that the show is designed specifically so that newcomers and diehard fans are both welcomed and satisfied equally. And of course, there is one more question that needs to be answered. Is this show actually up to its name? Is it good enough to rival its predecessors? Well, as far as I can tell based on the early reviews and reactions, the answer is a pretty loud yes. Many industry observers who love series such as this are already comparing it with legendary shows such as Mindhunter and True Detective. And mind you, both these shows arrived with serious filmmaker credentials and even delivered just like we expected them to. Another amazing thing that I, along with numerous critics, am grateful for is the fact that both Scorsese and Spielberg are attached to this show as executive producers, because almost every critic has said that their contribution to the show is actually reflected on screen pretty well. To be honest, Cape Fear is not just a simple remake, it's trying to become the example of a good horror thriller for the new generation of thriller lovers. And honestly, there's so much more this show has going on for it, but as far as the critic reviews go, that's it for today. But yes, as of today, the Rotten Tomatoes score is actually a whopping 77%, which is honestly really good. Also, the way the critics have hyped up this show by saying numerous things such as, "This is a great take on a story shown in a Hitchcockian way. Definitely recommend. Is it wrong that I was rooting for Max the whole way?" And "One of the best thrillers of all time. Classic remake. I'm already sold. This series actually feels really special. It reminds me of when The Boys came out. Something new. Something entirely different." Let me know in the comments whether you will be watching this show on Friday on Apple TV+. And of course, while you're commenting, make sure to hit the like button, smash the subscribe button, and ring the bell icon so that you never miss another review from us. Till we meet again in the next video, Marvelous Videos, signing out.